Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Fiercely Spiritual podcast. I'm your host, Sandra Rea, and I'm so delighted to this week have with us our guest, Shereen Oberg, who is the author and creator of the Law of Positivism. Welcome, Shereen. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me today.
It's
So
such a
glad to
pleasure.
talk to you.
Yes, it's such a pleasure. And I've been practicing how to say the law of positivism because I found that when I was talking to my husband, I said that you were the creator of it. And I totally couldn't say the word positivism. I was tripping over myself. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. I wanted to just introduce you to everybody. If you could explain a little bit about what you do and who you are.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I'm Shereen. I'm based in Sweden, and I'm the creator of the Law of Positivism, which is a community on Instagram and also the podcast with the same name. And my new book that is coming out next week on the 22nd of June, the Law of Positivism as well. So, besides all of these digital things that I'm doing and authoring this book, I'm also soon to be a Chinese medicine and acupuncture practitioner, and been also studying Western medicine, and I'm planning this fall to study global health, well-being and rights. So I've been diversely working with healing on different layers of our being, but I work spiritually with healing as well, which, yeah, I got the first healing actually in Dublin many years ago, which led me into Reiki healing and yeah, other types of spiritual work as well. So I would say that I work with healing on different levels. And I'm a
And
yoga teacher as well.
I was going to say you're also a yoga teacher.
Yeah, exactly. I've been
Yeah.
teaching for 4 years and practicing since my time in Dublin as well. So a lot of things happened when I was living in Ireland, actually.
So tell us a little bit about that. So you came to Ireland and you were working in a corporate role. And what happened? How did things unveil for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I had been studying business and IT for many years in Sweden, and at the same time, I had a deep interest into the spiritual since I was a teenager, and it was a natural part of my life. So in my early 20s, I got into astrology and all of this. And when I got the job in Dublin at this big corporation, I uh, thought it was like the dream thing, like my biggest dream coming true. So I decided quickly to move, and I think it was there that all of the bigger initiations started for me. Ireland is very magical and can be also seen as the heart chakra of the world, and it's green and it's so mystical. And I was living in Dublin, which is a big city, but it's still very calm and close to nature and all of that. And one of the first things that I attended in Dublin was Diwali festival, which is a Hindu festival, which was really lovely. And one of the things I saw at the festival was Reiki healing, and I also had a woman read my tarot cards, and a lot of the things she said then was really has unfolded. I think I was 25 or 26 at that time. And it really started also, it initiated me into deeper work into myself. So what happened when I moved was some form of disattachment happened for me when it came to who I thought I was and wanted to be, and all the old layers of myself. It was a very stressful job. So I was constantly in my head my body was like disattached from my head. So I didn't really have an attachment to my physical. I didn't feel embodied. I was very much in my head. And at the same time, I was starting to cleanse physically my body with foods and all of these things that I had just learned about. So it was a lot of things in a short time period that happened, that like intense meditations. I started practicing yoga thereafter, and a lot of healing work started, because I think the first year I was like leading into my deepest places, and the second year I started to wake up. I felt like I had been sleeping for my whole life, and then I woke up, and it was a very intense journey. It wasn't like a blissful journey at all. It was really intense and dark and deep. And then I decided that definitely like the meditation practice was so important. Yoga became important for me to just feel embodied again, and then to start nourishing myself. And I did like past life regressions, and one day I suddenly woke up and I said, I want a Reiki healing, but I didn't know what it was. So I met a woman, an Irish woman, and after that session, I felt really so different. And a couple of weeks after that, I was going to Japan, and I didn't know that Reiki was from Japan, but I had a book on the flight on my way there, and then I understood that it was a Japanese monk who founded this from ancient lineages and traditions that he had been studying. So I met with my Reiki master there. It was really divinely guided that we met, and I got initiated there into it. So I think that my stay in Ireland was really important, because also from there I started working with like my mind, my body, my emotions, my energy body, and also my spiritual self, like on an astral plane. It was a lot of things happening, a lot of experiences, a lot of experiences beyond the senses happened there. And I created the Law of Positivism there. It was very guided as well. It was back, I mean, it was 7 years ago. So Instagram wasn't as it is today. It was quite, well, it was quite new for me. It wasn't that much content about these kind of things. And the name was also divinely guided. It was just that I wanted to do something positive for the world, to share something that could help others from what I had learned. And I think Louise Hay was also important back then for healing, because she had so many beautiful guided meditations and affirmations that I benefited from. I started working with that on a daily basis every morning. So that's how that was created. And then everything has unfolded since then.
So it's been quite a journey. It sounds like you were almost purging when you started out. It was like an intense kind of, would that be right to say, like purging of the shadow? Would that be right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And
Yeah.
that sounds like something that, I mean, it's difficult on this spiritual journey anyway, when you unfold on the path, but it sounds like your unfolding was quite quick, in that it all started to just happen. And I'd say that was tough for you. It must have been a shock to the system.
Yeah, I had definitely experiences where I felt like things were happening very quickly. And this one meditation that I did, where I completely disappeared from this world, really like activated my whole spine, but really, really in a harsh way. So it was like, uh, yeah, being pushed. I think it was, sometimes things can happen gradually, but when we start working intensely, because during that time I started also to become more isolated, more like a hermit. I was working, but in my social life I wanted to I was becoming more and more introvert as well. So I was in that process a lot. It wasn't like I had planned for it or I wanted to reach something. It just happened. And so we can enter these places in time periods where we're doing it intensely, and then maybe we come back to the physical existence and try to integrate that. And but it's also nice to do it in a flow, to be constantly working little by little with it. But our paths unfold in many different ways, and for me it was, I think the initiation started before that, because I started having experiences before my time in Dublin. It was like short signals that something was going to happen. And in this time period, my whole view of life and the things I was attached to changed, and I felt like I became more and more aligned. But then also, I would say the past 3 years has also been a kind of, again, so it's not like it doesn't end. I feel like, so I dive deep into that shadow, and then integrating that for a couple of years, and then the past 3 years has also been a deep dive into doing that. And now I feel like, okay, now I've integrated that, what I've learned from that experience, and it comes, like everything comes in cycles.
And I think as well, the beauty of it is, well, for me, I believe everything happens in divine timing. And when we experience that ourselves, then we can identify with others who are going through the same and help them on their path. And it always, for me, it's always helped to work with a mentor or a teacher or somebody who's a little bit further ahead, who has walked that path and who knows the way and knows what you're going through. And it's not to say that it's all difficult. There are beautiful aspects to it as well. But when you are in that state of maybe purging or allowing the shadow to be released, then sometimes we don't realize what is actually happening. And I think that part is where we try to kind of hold on and stay the same without knowing what is happening. So for me, you were saying about Reiki, it was the same when I started, when I had my first Reiki session. That just opened up so many doors for me, and so much started unfolding, and that led me down the path of, I was working with the angels, and I know, and yeah, and guides, and I find they all assist. We have these human healers and guides and light workers who help us, but we also have our guides in the ethereal realms, and they help so much as well that we don't even realize. So if somebody is working through unveiling the layers and they're getting to, you were calling it their unique essence, how do you recommend, like, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I think that all of us have different pathways to the same thing, and we carry so much different experiences from this life and other lifetimes. Sometimes we go through these shifts and transformations to remember something. So it can be like certain things just come to us easily. We have a feeling that we've done this thing before, so it's about unlocking. But what I've really started with, because as in my book I describe that sometimes it's easier for people because we are so used to our senses and this physical presence and beingness and the illusion of that. We're so attached to our body and our mind because they're so concrete, not abstract, and very tangible. So for me, it started with working with the physical body when it comes to how I was eating and how I was caring for my body, but also the mind, because we're listening to this inner voice that we identify with, but it's the voice of that's translating everything that we've gotten from the physical world, and we're not it, because we're only that which can't be observed, and the thoughts can be observed, so we're not that, according to yogic philosophy. So really starting to work on a physical, mental, and then going into the emotional, which emotions can also be extremely tangible and physical, but then the energetic body, which we do also through these previous steps, because the energetic body is like revolved also around our physical, but also a little bit more subtle, and the astral body more subtle, with dreams and all of these aspects. And like you said, also for me, when I got my first healing, the woman was invoking angels, and that was my first encounters, and that's when I started working with that. So we start working with that, and then we start working with the spiritual. So sometimes the spiritual can come first, and then we start, maybe we have spiritual experiences. I also had that as a teenager, and then they evolve. But we can see, we can, like, when we slow down, we can see what is it that we need the most right now, and that can change from day to day or week to week, but it really has to be, feel completely aligned. Whatever you're doing has to be aligned with what you feel like you need. That means that you have to tune in to yourself more, and not just ignore what's happening or what you're feeling or thinking or experiencing. So this takes time, and at the same time, it's like starting to dedicate your time and energy to yourself and devote yourself to your path. And some of us feel naturally that we want to dedicate our lives to something that is in higher service, and just like dedicating your life to being in spiritual devotion, for example, in bhakti. That it doesn't mean that that path is right for everyone. It's just what you're called to. That's why I love the different yogic paths. You can take the path of, so what we learn now in my latest training, it's that some people are more intellectual and love to develop their spirituality and their healing through knowledge, which is, you can read the old scriptures or anything that develops your soul. The devotional work and the worship is a different aspect of that, and it comes from the heart more than the mind. And I think all beings do benefit and develop from unconditional selfless service as well. So there's so many ways, but you have to start with yourself, and from there evolve everything else that you're doing in your life.
Absolutely. And I do think that process evolves as well as we evolve, because you may start out reading and gaining knowledge. And I know I certainly was, pouring through books and taking courses. But then for me, the actual experience of being in awareness and, connecting with that essence that you talk about, it's having that experience of it, because we can talk about it forever, but until you actually sit and are with your beingness, you can't describe or explain, or, I think the knowledge opens the door, and that door then leads to experience of it. Would you agree with that?
Mm. Yeah, definitely. Like, when we read and learn on that level, we challenge our mind to think differently, and that is an important aspect. So then we can start integrating it. It can unlock something through our mind, which is a different layer of ourselves, and the mind is a tool. So if we use it as a tool and direct the focus into learning these new aspects. I think that has been a really important part of my path, and reading and taking in and learning from others and understanding and discussing and contemplating, because I think I have some Gemini energy, so the communication, writing, reading is really strong, and at the same time I have the emotional parts that is important as well, how things feel, and really choosing from your heart. I think when I started choosing, what I realized when I moved to Dublin, I didn't choose from the heart space, I chose from the mind. So that was an important lesson, to listen how things feel and really be comfortable with everything that comes up.
And I think a lot of people struggle with that because we're so used to, especially in the school system, we're taught to use our minds, we're taught to analyze and work things out, and we become accustomed to living that way. And then suddenly we realize, oh, I've forgotten my heart center, I've forgotten to tune in. And it can be like a relearning process where we're dropping into our heart. And yes, the mind serves a purpose and it can help us in many ways as well. But ultimately, the heart is always going to lead us truly, and it will always be a beacon of light and point us in the right direction. So it's really beautiful when we can start listening to that and following our heart guidance as well.
Yeah.
So I know that you tune into your guides and channel information, and you're working strongly with the goddess energy as well. Are there certain angels that you work with, or is there certain guides that you turn to? And I know that can change as well over time. Is there someone that you would have an affinity with?
Yeah, such a beautiful question, because when I didn't know what angels were until I experienced them. And I think we all have different experiences. I had heard stories about them as a child and like in my upbringing. So it was like a natural thing to, but what I really felt and the time when I was in Dublin, and it was like this, with the angels, a really loving sense of being comforted and being surrounded by this love, which could make me laugh in a hard situation. It was like really joyful and light, I feel like. The ones that I regularly work with when it comes to the angels are definitely Archangel Michael, with clearing, protection, and all of this. I do that in most of my work and in clearing spaces and everything. So that feels natural for me. And also Archangel Raphael, because of the healing aspects, calling upon this energy to help me in my healing work and for others to heal and places to heal. And also Archangel Gabriel as well, for sometimes when I'm drawing cards, readings, I ask for messages, and they're very extremely present in my healing work when I'm giving Reiki, distance Reiki, because it's so powerful to call upon them into the receiver's space, because it's really easy to visualize them there to help out and be extremely present, since my physical body can't be there. I can be there in an energetic sense, but they can be there also. And those three I think I'm working with the most when it comes to the angels. The goddess has been present in different forms since 4 years back, as I in a shamanic journey met with the goddess, which now I'm learning so much from and I feel deep devotion to, which is in ancient Sumeria she was called Inanna, and later on also Ishtar. which really strongly appeared to me in visions. And I had never learned about it, but I later learned who she was by researching the name I heard. And it turns out that it's really connected to where I'm physically descended from, these ancient places in Mesopotamia and Sumeria. So that has led me to, and the messages that came through back then really has unfolded exactly as she said. And the divine feminine has really been present in that. So I definitely work with the mother, which has so many different aspects, and the goddess has so many faces, and it's appeared to me in the shape of, in a journey also as Mary Magdalene, but not only her, it was the Trinity of her, Mother Mary, which I also work with a lot, and Jesus was an aspect of that Trinity. So that has been extremely present and is really important for me right now. Actually, the past month has been intense in that a lot of dreams and signs, and the serpent has been really present in that. So it's really interesting to learn. I'm just open to receive and learn about that. And I think that, like you said, it depends where we are on our journey, at what time things come up. Maybe they come up a little bit at a point of time, and when they come back strongly, that's when you really need to listen to that, because I think that life shows us when we're on the right path, when it's more ease. When you're constantly feeling like you're going against a wall, or like something is holding you back, then you're not really walking the path that you're supposed to be on. So that has been strong. And then from the spirit world, it's been my grandmother from my paternal line. So there's different, you see, it's not just, it depends on what I'm doing, and it all is one in the end. In yogic philosophy, we say that these are, when we worship or devote ourselves to a deity, it's the Ishvara, like the what the mind can make up from the highest consciousness that is so abstract we can't even visualize it or understand it completely. We can only experience it. But these are really tools to let our heart flow into that and devote ourselves to it. So I really honor and feel gratitude to connect with these different types of energies, and we all can connect with different forms and shapes, and whatever we want to devote ourselves to, or ask in, call in, invoke to help us. That's really so individual, and it's beautiful that it is individual, that it's not just one thing.
That's so true. And when you're connecting, you mentioned through dreams, through your healing practice, does it come through in everyday situations, or would it be more so through, your meditation or healing or dreams, or as you're out walking in nature, would you find them coming in?
Yeah, it's really in all the ways that you said. It's constantly present in my conscious and subconscious. So it's like, let's say that you've been wearing sunglasses your whole life, and then when you take them off, you see all the colors and everything. It's hard to just take on the sunglasses. Of course, you do that sometimes, but you start seeing it in everything, in everyone. So it becomes as integrated as everything else that we see in the physical, with the physical senses. It becomes so clear and huge part of our lives. So it's natural. But of course, when we start, the times when I've disconnected completely from it and not felt connected at all are times when I've been completely attached to my physical life and experience and my physical body. But those times have been important for me to remind myself to come back. And then it's been an even deeper and stronger connection, because life, we can't control our physical life, how it unfolds, but there's a constant relationship that we have with the divine that is always there, no matter how life turns out. Maybe it becomes invisible for a while and then it comes back. But I felt like with the places that I'm at can also be very like if you're living in a place like a city or a home or in a job that is not completely like resonating with you, or that really isn't the right place for you to be. I think sometimes at least the spirit world comes very strongly for me then to let me know that I need to shift. So up until the shift, it's very intense, and then it releases. So I really listen to that as well.
Yeah, they start shouting at you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's so beautiful. I love that kind of analogy that it's, well, it's not an analogy, it's the truth that it's always present. And it reminds me, I say to my sons that, you know, we're swimming in love. And I would say to them that it's like a fish swimming in water. A fish doesn't necessarily know that it's in water, it's surrounded by water, but it's just normal to the fish. It doesn't realize that it's in this substance. And it's the same for all of us. We don't realize that we're swimming in this ocean of love, and we can forget that. And it's always there for us. And it's when we take our focus away from it that it can seem that we're removed from it. But it's always there. And also, you were talking about how their present just becomes this natural thing. And it reminds me that for everyone, those angels, those guides, they're always present for all of us. And just because we're not tuned into it doesn't mean that they're not there. Often people come to me and say, well, why can't I hear my angels, or why can't I sense them, or, you know, and it's not that they're not there or they're not helping us. It's maybe that we're just not tuned in.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah.
No,
Did
how
you?
beautiful that you're teaching your children, your sons, to have that consciousness open, because it's so valuable to have that early in life and to raise this new generation in this way.
Yeah, I think it's important for them to have that awareness. And I
Mm.
know I'd always say to them to call on the angels, and whenever they need help. And my older son would say to me, sometimes he'd come home from school and he'd have been talking to his angels or calling on them. And yeah, I think, and I know people have said to me, if they knew how to do it when they were children, that it would have made such a difference. So I do think it's important to have that awareness that they're there for us.
Yeah.
So just going back to the law of positivism, I know that when I first came across you, it was probably a good few years ago. I can't remember exactly when, but there was something about the messages that just resonated, and I felt that vibration behind them, the energy behind them. And I think at that stage, I don't know if you had any pictures of yourself on your Instagram page. I think it was more so the messages that were the focus. So I didn't know who was behind it, but I just felt that energy behind the messages. And I think that's why it was so popular, because you had that vibration that you were putting out there. It wasn't the messages even themselves, it was the vibration behind it that was coming through.
Thank you. Yeah, for many years I didn't put my name or in, I've always been a little bit introverted when it comes to that, even now with video and all of that. So you're definitely right. What I was writing was, so you know how it is when you write something but you can't remember what you wrote and why and how and all of that. So that's channeling. And also channeling like things that I was learning, which was, I thought was like, why didn't I know this a long time ago? And how come people don't know this? And those things started even earlier, actually, many years before that. And when I discovered quantum physics and all of these amazing things that we haven't learned or that we don't see in media at all. So for me, it was just the messages. And if I could like uplift one person that day would be amazing. I didn't have any intention with, for me, the work with sharing has been completely 100% selfless and karma yoga for me. So, and then it's led to things that are beautiful. But my main intention, like my very first intention, was that I just want to put out, because words are vibrations and frequency, and intentions are so powerful. So even if no one would read it, it's still making an impact. It's making an impact in me. When you decide to become a channel, it's really like the universe gives you so much from that. When you decide to not do things that only benefit you. So for me, it was just a natural thing. It was so liberating. You know how people paint or sing or create art. For me, it was writing. So it's been a blessing to myself as well to do this, and then to connect with you and everyone. That's like, it wouldn't have been possible. So the people I've connected with have been so important in my journey, all of them. Like everyone has been so supportive, and if I could help out in that way, it was like my only dream and wish for it. So since I wasn't doing it, I think it's like when I started my journey, I wasn't doing it, definitely not as a career or job or business. It's still not, actually. It's not what I do it's just that I do it from my heart, and as a spiritual service. And I think that's the natural way how it's been throughout times. And then we have to evaluate also the energy that we put in. And in my work as a yoga teacher, of course, then it's a mix of doing what I love and teaching what I love and mixing it as a work, but it's still the basis and the intention is the same. So yeah.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And I think that when you can mix and combine that, doing what you love, helping others, and also being your career, it really is such a beautiful mix. And it comes through that your energy is 100% behind what you're doing. And yeah, I think it's just so beautiful to be able to do that as well. So along the way, the seed of your book was obviously planted at some stage. When you started writing, did you even know it was a book, or how did it evolve for you?
Yeah, so there was a clear intention that it should be a book, because I was connected with the publisher, which had supported me so much on my journey, Hay House, with their content and their cards and everything. And then I started contemplating what people were connecting with me about and asking me questions, because I get so many messages on Instagram, and the questions I got was really, I could see themes in the questions of all of these people that were connecting with me. So from that, so I could share, of course, on Instagram some layers of that, but then I thought I have to go deeper, because this is like the platform is not enough to go that deeply, to share all of the exercises, all of the meditations, all of the inner practice, the outer practices, and understanding the fullness of what we are. So the book unfolded naturally from like my healing path and what I've done in my life, and what I've seen has helped others, and what I've heard questions about, and all of that put into one. So it evolved quite naturally at this time, because there was a cycle that was completed this past year for me. So this book was birthed from that long years and years of cycle. So yeah, that's how I wrote, and I don't know how I wrote it and what I need to read it myself, because I would say that it's a lot of channeled work, although it's a lot of information and like logical things as well. But the flow of it, together with my editor and the support of my publisher, really helped me to make it more, taking all of this into a structured form, which can be hard to do, especially when you're working so much from the heart and the energetic state. And that's why it can be hard to like physically manifest things from that space, because you're so up in that other element. So yeah, that's how it evolved.
Yeah, it's like bringing it down and grounding it into the physical reality. Um, so the book is called The Law of Positivism, a life or live a life of higher vibrations, love and gratitude.
Yeah, I have
Oh, we have a copy. I love the cover. It is
yeah, the cover.
gorgeous.
It's actually, this cover is made by Amanda Lynn Hales, who's also done my art for the podcast. And I want to say that this art is, she makes this beautiful collages that reflect your inner soul and on the etheric plane, I think. And she made this a couple of years ago for me, but I'm actually in the art, in the image. And she really channeled these beautiful symbols. So it's like, I felt like it was me, but on a different, in a different world, which sometimes I'm in that world. So it's really, yeah, I'm really grateful for this. Even the cover is from that space, you know.
So beautiful. And where can I know it's out on the 22nd? Where can people pre-order it or order it by the time this comes out?
Yeah, so now it's a couple of days away. Pre-ordering it is available on major platforms like Amazon and Book Depositor. It's all on my website at lovepositivism.com. So many different online stores have it available, and it's shipped throughout the world. And also local shops. I saw that the Swedish shops have it now, like online shops, bookstores. So yeah, it's available. And I don't know when this episode will come out, but up until the release date, I've been doing oracle card readings for everyone who's been pre-ordering the book. So it's been beautiful to connect with people who's supported my work in this way, and to give back also with these personal readings.
Brilliant. And I wish you so much luck with it. Before we'll put a link in the show notes so people can go to your website and get their copy. Before we go, you have all these different practices that you do, and I know that you're doing your Chinese medicine training and Reiki and yoga. Is there any one practice that you go to above all else that you do have to do every single day, or is it a combination, or whatever you feel like on the day?
Yeah, I think the most like present practices that I do on a daily basis is to connect with my breath and my physical body. So it comes from the yoga that, like, when I wake up or throughout the day, I need to have some type of embodied practice, like coming back to the body. You know, during the night we're in the astral plane, and also the highest, in deep sleep, our highest state. So coming back to the body either through movement, being in nature, or stretching, and also connecting with the breath. For me, that's really important. And then also what I eat and consume is really important for my energetic state. So I think we can't forget that part, because it's still a vehicle for our soul. So it really helps us on this spiritual, energetic journey as well.
That's so true. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you, and I wish you so much luck with the book. I know it's going to help so many people, and it's going to help others to discover their true essence and to open up in new ways. So best of luck with it, and thank you so much for chatting with us. It's been really insightful.
And thank you so much for holding this space. I'm so grateful to have connected with you.
Thank you. And we'll see you next week for another episode of the podcast. See you then.